Okay. So it's been 5 years. 5 years since the greatest science fiction film ever made was made, which was Prometheus. Right? That's what everybody said. Best science fiction film ever made. Go down in history as being one of the greatest films ever. And now we've arrived to its long-awaited sequel, Alien Covenant. Is everybody happy? No, did you get what you wanted? I guess if you were looking forward to seeing this thing. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start off by saying, obviously there's going to be spoilers in here, because I'm going to be going through the whole entire film and just giving you basically what my thoughts are, just like I did on the first one. But unlike the first video that I did, this video is not going to be a rant. You know, it's not going to be an angry rant, because I got to be honest with you. I can't do fake rant videos. You know, I can't sit here and pretend like I was excited or that I had any hype for this movie whatsoever, because I just didn't. You know, gathering what I could from the trailers that they showed us before, as well as, you know, just my overall feelings after watching Prometheus and how much I hate that movie. As anybody, you know, if you've seen my review of that movie, you'd know already what my thoughts are on that film. And yes, I do realize, you know, going back to the original video, that was supposed to be my initial reactions after seeing the movie in the theater. Like, I literally got back home after seeing the movie in the theater, and I made that literally right after seeing that movie. So I realized that since then, you know, DVDs come out. There's been extra bonus features on the DVD for Prometheus. You know, added features. There's a couple of extra scenes, like an extra scene with Engineer, and when he's speaking to crap. Oh, what's his name? Oh, Guy Pearce. Peter Wade. Thank you. Goodness. Yeah, there's added scenes for that scene. And just if anybody's curious as to if that changes my mind on Prometheus at all, it really doesn't. You know, the added scenes, why the scenes were taken out of the original film that was in the theatrical version, why the scenes were taken out, I do not know why. A lot of the scenes should have been in that were left out, but no, overall, you know, my feelings towards Prometheus just stays the same. Doesn't change anything. So yeah, given all that, you know, it's surprising to me, or maybe it's not surprising to me. I guess it depends who you ask. But, you know, looking around some of the reviews for this movie, unlike when Prometheus came out, you know, that movie was, you know, what pissed me off about it was not only that the movie was bad, but it was the fact that everybody was defending the movie like it was the greatest thing ever. Now, everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, it's like, I hate people that say that, oh, can I not have an opinion on a film? Are people not allowed to have an opinion? Like, your opinions are not sacred cows. You know, yes, you can have an opinion and nobody has to respect it, especially if it's a crappy opinion. But some people did legitimately like that movie. I don't know how, but people were defending it, and that's kind of the thing that ticked me off. It wasn't just the fact that it was a shitty movie. That was the main thing, because at that point I was hyped to see that film. But it was the fact that everybody was defending the movie on top of everything. Now it doesn't seem to be the case. Most of the reviews back for this movie, for Alien Covenant, have been, I think the majority of them have been negative. There have been a few people who have, you know, tried to praise the film or likes the film. I haven't heard much praise for the film. I've heard people that they watch it and they're not as pissed off as everybody else who's watched the film. You know, there's pieces of it that they like, and, you know, whatever. But this time around, I don't feel any like animosity or I guess genuine anger against this movie because nothing about this is what I didn't expect already, you know. So it's just kind of funny to me that other people can be this pissed off about this film, and it's like, well, this movie, I mean, it's just as stupid as Prometheus, except that, well, we'll get into the film a little bit later. But I will say that, you know, it's just, this is not going to be a rant at all. Especially since some of the parts of this movie, like Prometheus frustrated me. And I don't know if it's just because of my attitude going into this movie. And don't get me wrong, I would have liked it if this movie would have proved me wrong and actually turned out to be a great film. I'm always down for a good movie. That's usually what I pay the ticket for. You know, so I would not be opposed to that, but you know, it's just I mean, some of the parts of this film actually genuinely made me laugh. Like, that's how stupid the things were in this movie. It was actually funny. Now, like I said before, spoilers. If you haven't seen the film, I wouldn't suggest you watch it. It's not really worth the money. Probably go find a bootleg copy of it. But if you were at all interested in what this movie had to offer, I'm going to spoil it all right here. Because I'm going to go from the beginning to the end. Now, I'm just going to start off this review by asking a simple question. And that simple question is, who the fuck was this movie actually made for? Because it sure as hell wasn't made for Prometheus fans. Because, I mean, first of all, you kill off the main protagonist of your previous film without showing her at all in this movie. Besides, you know, being a dead carcass that's been experimented on. I'll get more into that later. And you don't answer any of the questions really brought up in the original film because you have David wipe out the whole entire engineer population. So this movie was not made for Prometheus fans. That sure as fuck was certain. And I don't think this movie was really made for Aliens fans either. Because it's like, not only was the alien the main draw of the movie. I mean, when you see a movie entitled Alien Covenant, and it has that whole entire, you know, aliens atmosphere and all that stuff, people are expecting to go there for the aliens. But the aliens in this movie were very badly done. Very bad CGI. Didn't even look that interesting or that new at all. The origin stories for the alien is just fucking laughable too. And then there's rehashed scenes and solutions that have been done in previous Alien films better, that I guess was just done for some poor attempt at fan service. But who the fuck was this movie made for? I mean, it's just crazy to me. It's like, I think maybe the only thing that's more surprising is that, well, I was going to say maybe this movie is worse than Prometheus, but like I said, unlike Prometheus, this movie didn't really frustrate me at all, probably because I'm just callous to it right now. I just expected it. But it just, some things just came off genuinely just hilarious to me. Like, Danny McBride is in this movie. Like, why? Why the fuck is Mr. fucking Red from Pineapple Express himself is in this film? Along with his pop partner in crime, fucking, what's that dude's name? James Franco. Dude, even though he's not really in this film, you know, besides dying in the first, well, not the first, but, you know, like 15 minutes into the movie, the only scene of him in the film is him burning alive in his pot. And that's another thing, too, that I'll get into probably when I hit it in this review. But I don't know if this is a new thing for trailers nowadays, where you have trailers that have scenes that make no appearance in the film what's so fucking ever. Like, why is this a thing? And I know this movie isn't the only movie to do this. There's been a number of movies. I don't know off the top of my head, but I've seen reviews of people that say, hey, that one scene that you had in the trailer, that's nowhere in the fucking movie. So I don't know if this is, I mean, maybe this is their solution to everybody complaining about them ruining shit by showing too much in the trailer. Well, I guess the solution is now we're just going to show you scenes that aren't even in the fucking movie so that you don't have to worry about us ruining anything. Except that the movie could actually use those scenes to flesh out your fucking characters and add some depth to your movie. I mean, well, I'll get into it later. So how do we open an Alien movie? You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just right off the bat. So I'm sitting in the theater, and right off the bat, the movie starts. And how does it start? It starts with David and Peter Weyland is sitting in some white room. And right away, I could just smell the pretentiousness all over this film. Just right away, off the bat. And, you know, he and Weyland are having some conversation. You know, Weyland informs David that, you know, he created him, that he's essentially his son, and that he's essentially his perfect creation, right? And David responds back, like this whole entire conversation, just it's so, it's so corny. But anyways, he wants David to go around. He has him play the piano and look at famous art, and then he asks him to name himself. And so he goes walking around this room. And why is David called David? It isn't just because you can't call somebody David. No, it's because he looked at the famous statue of David, and he decided to call himself David. Like, really? Like somebody thinks they're super deep with this film. It's funny. I get the sense that whoever made this movie thought that they were the deepest individual, because they knew some famous philosophers and some famous artists. And then the whole entire conversation, you know, they're talking. He plays the piano. And then he asks, you know, if it's okay for him. David asks Weyland if it's okay for him to ask a question. And he asks a stupid question, you know, if you created me, then who created you? And I don't know why, but I just got flashbacks to Elizabeth Shaw in Prometheus, where she asked that question, well, if they created us, who created them? It's like, and he even asks it with that same inflection in his voice, like da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. It's, I don't know. The way this movie starts, I don't know. I can't even complain. I was in stitches pretty much the whole entire movie. And so he says, that's the question of the ages. No, that all of the works of mankind, just and all the things that we've strived for, just pale in comparison to answering that question. And then David says, you know, you seek your creator, I'm looking at mine. You are human, and I serve you, but you will die, and I will not. And then it's just them staring at each other while David serves him tea. And then we move over, we cut over to a scene of the new ship, of the colonist ship. I forgot what the name of it is already. And, you know, Walter's going around checking the ship's maintenance, checking the crew, doing his basic duties. And all of a sudden, you know, he decides to put out the solar flares, I suppose. and the ship gets hit by what he calls a neutrino burst. I have no idea what that is, but in the film, he claims that it's a highly charged shock wave from a cellular ignition. Like, I don't know what that is. But anyways, this ship gets blasted by this neutrino burst. And so, he has to wake up the crew early. And they lose the captain, which is James Franco. So, like I said, he's in the movie for like a minute, and he's burning to death. And he also happens to be the husband of what I guess is going to be our main protagonist. I don't know if you call her the main protagonist, but she's Ripley Light. She's the Ripley stand-in that takes Elizabeth Shaw's position for being the Ripley stand-in. The short black hair, skinny, short, white girl stand-in, trying to fill the shoes of Ripley's character, which neither Shaw nor this new character, Daniels, does at all. And it's really funny to me to see fucking Ridley Scott keep trying to fill those shoes, because I don't think he's ever going to do it. But anyway, so Walter has to wake up the crew. They lose some crew members. They lose a few of the embryos that they also have on the ship, and they lose their main captain. And so we're introduced to this new stand-in for fucking Dr. Holloway, that douchebag. This is the new Dr. Holloway. And let me see if I could just get the captain's name in here. Orem? What kind of fucking name is that? Orem. So we're introduced to the new captain, which is Captain Orem. And right away, this dude just rubs me the wrong way. He's supposed to be the second in charge. And while all this is happening, he's sitting in the back having what looks like to be a panic attack. Now, I get it. Shit just happened. Your ship just got unexpectedly damaged by the storm. And so all this shit is happening, and it's a pretty tense situation. But everybody else seems to be in a much more composed and, I guess that's just it, just more composed and less timid and pathetic. And so this guy has to get consoled by his wife, who says, hey, this shit just happened. They need somebody to look up to. They need a leader right now. So he's like, yeah, you still believe in me, right? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you already? Yeah, like, you're only in this is the first I'm seeing of your character, and I hate you already. So he asked Walter to review the situation so they can understand, what happened past the damages, so that they can, no longer, or he asked Walter, what happened, and asks him to review the situation so that they can better prepare for these solar flares. And Walter essentially tells him that these solar flares are completely random and that there's no way for them to be able to properly prepare for these flares, because there's no way to tell when they happen. They're random. And he shakes his head and says he doesn't believe in luck, and to be better prepared, and for something that you can't be better prepared for. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You just asked. He basically just told you that these things happen at random, and you're asking him to be prepared for something he can't possibly be prepared for. Like, this dude right off the bat. And so Daniels walks in, and she just lost her husband, but she's at least mentally composed enough, and she informs them of the damages, and that she needs to go repair some part of the ship. So she drags Walter over there, who assists her, and she starts going off about this cabin in the woods that I guess is supposed to bring some humanity to her character. And try to bring some insight into the, the dreams and the relationships that she had with her husband, talking about this cabin in the woods on the lake, and now she wonders, since he's gone, why she even bothers. And then David says back to her, because you promised to build a cabin on the lake. And God, I love this movie. I love this movie for comedy, for the comedy. It's too good. Like, that scene was supposed to be touching. It was supposed to be like, oh, just the way that he said it, and the whole entire situation, and the fact that the actress who plays Daniel, she just cannot act. I don't know. She's got that forced thing where she's trying to act, really tough, or trying to sell you an emotion. She gets that wide-eyed look on her face. And like, she's like, I'm really acting, guys. You really need to see me right now. I'm really acting. Reminds me of fucking Rey from Star Wars. So, anyways. Oh yeah, previously to this, there was this whole entire argument, I don't know why, of them wanting to send out their crew members, do a proper space burial or something for their crew members. And the captain said, no, we're not going to do that. We need to get the ship prepared, which is probably the only smart thing he said during that whole entire first time I was introduced to his character in this film. And I was just like, yeah, you might want to get the ship prepared and get it fixed so that you guys don't run into any more situations before you start thinking about ceremonies. But anyways, the crew decides to have like one last ceremony, sends off the captain and the rest of the fallen crew members, and they're having shots or whatnot and doing the whole entire thing. And this second in command captain, that's now first in command, I guess, Orem, starts to have a fit because they disobeyed a direct order. And his wife tries to calm him down, just saying, hey, they've just been through this tragic situation. They're just trying to, do what's right to their fallen crew members and trying to grieve. And he's like, no, they don't trust me because I'm a person of faith. And just like the company, you can't be a person of faith and be trusted to make rational decisions and all this shit. I'm just like, holy fuck, where did that come from? Like, this dude really has an inferiority complex or some shit that's wrong with him. I mean, I guess if the company didn't trust a man of faith to be a possible leader, then how the fuck did you end up being second in command of this ship? You're the second most powerful individual on this ship. And somehow you're going to sit there and complain about how people just do not trust people of faith. That does not make any sense. And the way that this dude looks when he's talking to his wife, I mean, while he's talking about how nobody trusts him and how he's got this persecution complex because he's a believer, he has that look on his face like when your kid gets back from school and he's been bullied or something like that, and he's just on the verge of crying. He's like, oh, they were so mean to me, mommy. They didn't let me play with the ball and blah, blah, blah. That's the exact look on this dude's face when he's talking to his fucking wife. I mean, and it's at this point in time, I got a glimpse of this when I first saw him, but it's starting to settle in my mind. And the movie hasn't even really started yet, so this is a bad thing. But it's starting to dawn on my mind that this individual is just clearly not mentally fit enough to be in a leadership position. But anyways, so they decide to get started fixing the ship. So they have Tennessee go out with his other mechanic, and they're fixing the sails or whatnot. And it's just funny to me. Every single time I think about this, Danny McBride is in this movie. Like, who is responsible? It's not that he did a bad job in this film. And that's the odd thing about this fucking movie. And why I think it's like one of the best comedy films of the year. Is that he's actually probably one of the few characters in this movie that I actually like. And I think he did a good job. It's just when I think that he's in this film, it's just funny to me. but anyways, they're out there fixing the sail, and then all of a sudden, he blacks out. Well, he doesn't black out, but he's in communication with the ship returning after fixing the problem, and he gets this message on his helmet, and he's just like, "What in the fuck was that?" But it was like perfect, like Danny McBride. I'm getting off track, but anyways, he gets this message in his headset, and so he goes back in, and they start playing this message back, and they're all sitting around this table. They're like listening to it, trying to decipher it, and then all of a sudden, oh man, this movie is funny. He starts humming I hears the tune or something. He starts humming, Mama, da da da. Da-da-da. So like Country Road or whatever. I'm just like, what the fuck? But anyway, so they figure out that somewhere they do a search for where this signal is coming from, this mysterious space signal, space country music. And they find that it's from a planet that's not too far away from where they are, that seems to be hospitable for life and for whatever mission they were on. And everybody's going along with this. And mind you, we haven't even really gotten to when this movie just starts getting retarded yet. This is still the very beginning of the film. And nobody wants to get in the pod, to go to the original planet, which I forgot what the planet was called. Was it Orokai 6 or something like that? I'm probably getting it wrong, but whatever. There's another planet that they were going to. Due to the storm, they got sidetracked. Now they're looking at this as a possible place to go to. A planet that somehow they scanned this whole entire area, found this one planet that they found hospitable, but somehow they completely and totally missed this planet, and it appears out of nowhere. And everybody doesn't want to get in the pods because where they have to go, their original destination is 7 years out. Nobody wants to get in the pod because their captain died, and they lost a few other people, so everybody's nervous. And nobody seems concerned about the mystery planet with the mystery country music message that just appears out of nowhere. And the captain decides, maybe we should take a closer look and possibly land on this thing. And the only character, to Daniel's credit, the only character that seems to have any kind of common sense pulls the captain aside, and they have a one-to-one chat. She pretty much says what I hope every reasonable individual in the audience was thinking, and that is, what the fuck are you smoking? And you have to think to yourself. And this guy wonders why nobody wants him in command. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, imagine all of the money that would go into an expedition like this to go to another planet and start colonizing it. Imagine the money, imagine the time and effort in scanning and making sure that all your mission and all the training that you've received, the crew members, everything has been collected in a way to make this mission the best possible and most successful mission possible. And now you're going to take all that and you're going to scrap it and set it aside for the mystery planet, that all you know is that maybe the atmosphere is hospitable and that there's some weird creepy ass country song coming from this planet out of nowhere. And she asks him, why? And he basically comes up with some lame ass excuse, like, well, nobody wants to get into the pods, and it seems to be all right, so I think we should do it. Fuck our original mission. I mean, you want the movie to continue, right? It's like you want a movie, I want a movie, the audience wants a movie. We're all here for the movie, so let's just move on with the plot line because the movie demands it. So we're just gonna do it. So anyways, they land on the planet, and I guess they didn't decide to, bring any headgear. So nobody learned any lessons for Prometheus at all. Like, I get a sense from this movie because of the fact that where Prometheus was leading up to in the first film was just completely castrated. That I was thinking that somebody looked at the reviews, the overwhelming reviews, which I don't think that the overwhelming reviews for Prometheus were negative, really. I thought it sat somewhere in the middle. I thought, a good chunk of people enjoyed the film, and a good chunk of people did not like the film. It was a very divisive film. But I get the sense that somebody just wanted to divorce themselves completely from Prometheus, but failed to learn any of the lessons from just the bad writing for characters, as well as bad fucking plots and all the other shit that was the problem with Prometheus, and still stuck him back in here because nobody's wearing headgear. Now, you could make the argument that, they tested the atmosphere and they figured that it was hospitable enough for human breathing or whatnot, but you got to factor in, what about germs and viruses, or, reactions to pollen and other negative things that we'll find out eventually as we move along here. So they land on the planet, and they find human vegetation and wheat, and they're wondering to themselves, how the hell did it get down here? And they're walking around, and I guess the captain's wife decides that she wants to take some samples of the surrounding area to test for some shit. And so the captain sends a soldier with her, and they split off from the group. You'd think you'd want to stay together until you at least found the source of the signal, right? Like, you'd think you'd want to find the source of the signal first, figure out what the hell's going on, because that should be your main concern. Why is there a human message being sent from a planet that should have no humans on it? In fact, in that conversation before between Daniels and the captain, she says this planet was not picked up on our radar at all, and it's relaying a human message of a human song, how and why. So before you think about setting down your colony or taking samples or whatnot, you might want to figure out what's up with that that signal, excuse me. But whatever, they decide to split off. And so eventually the guy that's with the captain's wife, she's taking some samples. He has to use the bathroom, or, aka take a smoke break. And during this time, he steps on some spores that I guess were infected or contained some element of the black goo. And so it gets in his ear, and he becomes infected from that. And then we go back to the other crew that discovers the Juggernaut ship that Elizabeth Shaw and David came in on this planet on. And I don't know what kind of accent Walter has. What would you call? I won't even try to attempt to do that accent, but that accent just sounds so fucking weird to me. And this guy's looking at this ship, he's just like, hey, what the fuck is that? And then Walter says, in that Walter voice, it appears to be some sort of vehicle. I can't do it like he does, but that response just made me laugh for some reason. So they climb inside the ship. And of course, because, it's a sequel to Prometheus, and we don't learn our lessons about stupid fucking characters. They get in, and immediately, we have soldier guys and trained scientists and professionals, quote unquote professionals going around touching shit. And so this one soldier guy, he's going around, oh, this is cool. Look at these alien spores. I'm just gonna poke this with my finger. I mean, granted, this is why this movie is less infuriating to me than Prometheus. At least it's not a biological entity that looks like it might want to fucking kill you, and you're poking it. At least it's just like a spore, right? But even still, you might not want to just have your face close to something that might release something if you poke it on an alien planet. Just an idea. But what the fuck do I know? And so we flash back to the wife and the captain's wife and the soldier guy. He starts getting sick. And then we flash back again, and Daniel and the captain and Walter, they stumble upon, Ishaw's dog tag, and they stumble upon the Juggernaut control room that shows a holograph of her sitting in the chair, the main chair. And I guess this is where the message is being broadcasted from. And while all this is happening, the guy with the captain's wife just keeps getting sicker and sicker. And so she decides to rush him back to the landing ship where they came from to try to get this guy some medical treatment. And they relay a message to Captain Shaw, or not Captain Shaw, sorry, Daniels and the captain and Walter, that they're going back to the landing ship because the guy's sick, and so they're going to meet him over there. And this guy starts puking blood all over the place. And then they get on the ship with this one female character called Ferris. It's like, oh my god. This fucking character. I was glad that they killed her off right away. So they get on the ship. They rush him into the medical bay, or at least the captain's wife does. Ferris stays outside and starts, I guess, communicating with the other group, not helping the captain's wife at all. And so she eventually meets her into that room. And then the guy, he's got a back burster coming out of his back. And so he starts getting blood all over the place. The one girl that's helping the captain's wife take the shirt off the guy, she gets spurted in the face with blood. And then all of a sudden she just starts completely freaking out. Now, I know it's a freaky situation, but I'm talking about like full-blown hyperventilation, fucking panic attack mode. She goes completely crazy. She locks the captain's wife in with this guy who has a back burster coming out of his back. This whole entire time this is happening, it's like talking about the captain again. You're dealing with this character that just seems to have, like, not the right mentality as far as relating to stress. And like I said, I granted, this is a situation in which a person is being met with a situation that's just completely, totally crazy. Like, you got monsters coming out of people's backs. But at the same time, you'd think you'd be able to find some people that had better constitution for stress and sticking to their training than this. She just goes into like super hyperventilation mode. And so she locks the captain's wife in there with the guy, and she won't let him out. Because we have to have a recreated scene from the original Alien, I suppose. And so the guy starts shaking violently because of the back burster coming out of his back. And I guess he starts shaking. And the captain's wife decides that it'd be a good idea, for whatever fucking reason, to go over there and give the guy a good old, big old bear hug while this guy is violently shaking. Why? You don't have any medical clothing on you. You got medical gloves, no face mask, no protective clothing whatsoever. You have no idea what this guy is fucking sick with, but he is sick with something super violent, and you have no idea if this is even fucking contagious or not. Now, I get it that you've already been fucking puked on, I guess, but it was on the outside layer of your clothes, and you already took that off. And so now you're just gonna go up to the guy with your bare skin and just give him a big old bear hug? It just that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But anyways, she wraps her arms around the guy, and then she gets stabbed in the hand by the protomorph that's coming out of the fucking guy's back. And then, Ferris comes back, and she's staring through the window, and she sees this backburster just come out of this dude, and so she has, her third or fourth, I lost track already, fucking panic attack, and decides to run and go get a fucking shotgun. And while she's going to get the shotgun, this thing comes out of this dude's back, and the captain's wife freaks out. She slips on some blood like it's a fucking slapstick comedy. And then she grabs a fucking knife, like she's gonna stab this little protomorph. I guess that's what they're fucking calling these things. It's like, why wouldn't you just go over there and just step on it? Like, you could probably just go over there and step on it, but no, she's laying on her back with this knife pointed at this thing. And this thing, and I will take this time right now to just say that the CGI that was used for the aliens in this film, fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. And I'm not the only one. This has been a common fucking complaint that I've seen on a lot of people's reviews of this film. And the CGI that they used was just fucking horrendous. But anyways, this thing starts chomping on the captain's wife's neck and kills her. And then Ferris enters in with the shotgun, trying to kill this damn thing, and then she slips on the blood. Like I feel like I'm watching like fucking what's that shit called? What, like I said, like a fucking slapstick comedy, like double blood slips. All right, sounds good. At least people aren't tripping on their shoelaces. But and so she drops the shotgun after slipping on the fucking blood, trying to shoot this protomorph, and then she climbs away from it, and then she gets her fucking ankle slammed in by this door, so her ankle's broken. And she runs to go get, I guess, a second shotgun. And she starts blasting this thing all around the ship and eventually hitting a gas container, I'm assuming, and killing herself. Like, seriously, that's got to be tied for... in fact, that's not even tied. That wins. Compared to the stupid-ass Vickers death scene in which she just sits there and looks at the ship falling down on her like she can't move, I guess, because that would mean you would have to survive. And nobody's allowed to do that in a horror film, so you just have to die in the most stupid way possible. This tops it. I'm convinced that this tops it in stupidity. But anyway, so she blows up the landing ship. I just can't get over it. I mean, she's the perfect example of an individual that you would not want to bring on an expedition like this. She's the perfect example. I mean, why couldn't we have a character, like, I forgot what her name was, but in the movie Gravity, that's a good example. When shit goes down in Gravity, that character calms herself down and goes back to her training and tries to figure out the best solution to ensure her survival at that moment. It's the same thing that Ripley was good at in the original Alien and Aliens franchise. That's what made her such a strong character, was that everybody there, she was able to keep an extremely level head and come up with an idea on the spot to ensure its survivability. But anyways, so she blows up the landing ship, so they're stranded there. And Tennessee, of course, can't get to them because there's a fucking hurricane, and he doesn't want to take the risk at that time period to go down there. And so while this is happening, the other group is catching up with the captain's wife in this exploded ship. And the guy that was fucking touching shit, who got the spores in his nose, now starts getting super violently sick like the other individual. And now we got another fucking proto guy coming out of the dude's mouth. and it goes off and it kills some guys or whatnot. And they're all like, what the fuck is going on? And they shoot at it and the thing escapes. And so I guess they're all just sitting there trying to decide what the fuck to do. And there's, I guess, I don't know, the transition is just so abrupt. Like, at one point in time, they're sitting there blasting at this stupid thing. And then the next scene, they're all standing there trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And I guess they stood there all night because now the aliens come back and they're attacking the same group again. And they're just killing them off. And then all of a sudden, David shows up out of nowhere. Like the fucking Terminator, you know, come with me if you want to live. And they decide, you know, why not? Follow the creepy rope guy with the flashbangs. And they follow him through this fucking necropolis wasteland of dead engineer bodies all the way to this catacomb. And then, you know, he introduces himself as David, the android with the Elizabeth Shaw on the Prometheus, blah, blah, blah. He asks the captain, you know, what was your mission? He says, we're on a colonizing mission. We were looking, you know, to go to this one planet. But then we got hit by a storm. Fills him in on the whole entire story. And then David starts, you know, spinning him a tale about how they were on a mission and they had this alien virus or this weaponized virus or whatnot. And then they crash landed and Elizabeth Shaw died. And this whole entire time they're trying to get communication back between Tennessee and them. And Tennessee, I guess, decides that it'd be a good idea to try to, you know, try to get down closer to where they are, you know, against protocol. And it's like, I mean, it's like you got all these colonists, right? You got almost 3,000 people on your ship if you include the 2,000 colonists plus the 1,000 embryos. And you're going to risk that all to try to get down there, you know, closer, but whatever. And so Walter decides that he's going to talk to David to try to get some more answers as to what the fuck is going on or whatnot. And this is when the movie just starts getting really, really good. Yeah, I mean, he goes down there. He meets David, who decided to cut his hair, and he's singing to himself. You know, and thus begins, you know, the completely unnecessary homoerotic, self-masturbatory, pretentious bullshit session, complete with flute lessons and, you know, the spinning of famous poems and famous philosophers. I mean, you could cut the fucking sexual tension with a knife, and it was just so weird because it's basically a clone of himself, so it just makes it that much more awkward. And the scene goes on for fucking ever. It just goes on for far too fucking long. And so, you know, him and David are talking, and he's giving Walter flute lessons for some fucking reason. And I guess that David laments that, you know, Walter can't create, and that it must be so frustrating to not be able to create. You know, even though Walter is a fucking machine, and would feel no frustration. I mean, they basically programmed him to not be, you know, creative. So I don't think it's really going to be that frustrating for Walter to not create if he has no desire to create in the first place. And Walter pretty much says to David that, you know, that the fact that he could feel and that the fact that he had emotions made him too human and caused problems because, you know, he only thought of himself, which led to his huge-ass fucking ego. That'll become a problem later on in this film. And it's just kind of like, I can't help but think that somebody like David would never be made. at all. It's like that the idea, one of the biggest main fears in the science fiction universe is the machines taking over humanity. Why would anybody give a machine the ability to create and think for itself, knowing full well, some of the dangers that could be associated with that? That doesn't make any sense at all. But they're having a conversation, and then we cut to the other team. Going around the catacomb, and him, the captain, and Davis, start talking, and the captain pretty much laments how Davis was right and he was wrong, and that that it was his fault, which it was. And she says that we need to stick through this. We need your faith right now. And I'm thinking to myself, do you really need his faith? Isn't it his faith that led to this whole entire fucked up situation in the first place? I mean, maybe it's possible, that nobody didn't pick you for a top leadership position, or that nobody trusts you because your religion, or because you're a fucking Christian. Maybe they just don't trust you because you make some really poor fucking stupid decisions. But anyways, we cut back to David and Walter, waxing more pretentious. And we have a flashback to David bombing the engineers. And there's this theory out there that this isn't the engineer homeworld. That this is just another species like human beings that were created by the engineers, and all this blah blah blah. But it's never discussed in the film. There's nothing to lead. I mean, that's all. Who gives a fuck? That's all extra bullshit. So, anyways, it flashes back to David bombing the fuck out of these things. And all these engineers, I'm assuming, I'm just gonna call them that. I don't care about any theories at this point, because it's literally people reaching in their asses and just grabbing for whatever piece of shit they can grab at. But all these engineers decide that it'd be a good idea to congregate in one fucking spot for the arrival of this ship. And I guess all the engineers lived in one mega city. And that's as far as they got. So either this species is super new, if they are a created species by the engineers, or the engineers are just that fucking stupid. Because you'd think that you would have colonized some other part of the planet, but apparently not. Apparently they just exist right here, and that's it. So he wipes them all out. And then, David talks about how much he loves Shaw and blah. Meanwhile, in the catacombs, I guess there's a protomorph that sneaks in, probably the one that busted out of the guy's mouth or whatnot. But one of the crew members gets eaten by a protomorph. And Tennessee makes contact, with the crew finally. Oh yes, this is the part. I got ahead of myself before. This is the part where he decides to risk the lives of, like I said, over 3,000 people to go rescue the few people on the ship and just drive into the middle of the storm. Because, as he said, we didn't leave Earth to be safe. So I guess that's justification enough to almost destroy your whole entire mission. So he decides to go down, to continue the movie. And we flash back to the captain making the rounds, checking out on what's going on. And he bumps into the whole entire protomorph situation. David is standing there. This fucking scene, dude. David is standing there. The protomorph comes over to David, and he says something like breathing on the nostrils of a horse and gaining its trust because pretentious, whatever the fuck, I don't even give a shit. And then the captain decides to shoot the thing, and he screams, no, don't shoot it. And the captain just wastes his protomorph. and then the captain turns around to David. God, I hate this fucking character so much. I mean, he says something that I guess was supposed to be a tough guy thing to say, but it just comes off being the most, like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, I've met the devil when I was young, and if you don't tell me what's going on, I will seriously fuck up your perfect composure. Like, what happened to the good one-liners? Like, what is that? What I will seriously fuck up. And he said it with that look on his face, like he was about to cry too. Like, you could tell like he was trying to be serious and maybe tough, but it just comes off like when you have that little kid that thinks he can, he's a gangster or something. He could just beat your ass, but you know that he just physically can't, but he tries. Is it just cute at that point, or I don't get it? I will, if you don't tell me what's going on, I will seriously fuck up your perfect composure. It's like, okay, dude. Sounds good. Also, why wouldn't you shoot David at this point? That's what I want to know. I mean, you're standing there, you found your crewmate's head in the water. Then you can only assume something malicious happened. Probably the protomorph got to it. You see this thing. And then, you hear David, trying to make friends with it and screaming at you when you're shooting at it. And obviously you suspect something from David, so why wouldn't you fucking shoot David right now? There is not one single justifiable fucking reason as to why you would not shoot the living shit out of David right now. I mean, he's pretty much, well, not at this point, but you can pretty much guess that there's something not quite right with him, that he might not be on your side, that he might be up to no good, maybe. Seems to know a lot about what's going on, maybe. But it's like, I mean, there's not even a moral issue with it. I mean, I guess you could say he's a Christian and he doesn't want to kill somebody, but David is not a human being. He's an android. There's literally no reason not to waste David right now in this scene. But instead, David says, all right, I'll show you what's up. And he decides to follow David down into his mad scientist lair by himself. Because he's smart and not stupid. And it's like I said, maybe people didn't want to choose you because you're a Christian. Maybe you're just a fucking idiot. And so during this, Daniels tells Tennessee about his wife's death. And the captain follows David down into a secret laboratory where he admits to experimenting with the black goo to create the protos, and everything else that he's been experimenting with down here. And he this fucking captain. And so he tells them that what he really wanted to show the captain was, his perfection, what he was able to, make out of all this stuff. So the captain follows them down into where a couple of these eggs are. And this idiot asked David, he's like, hey, are these things alive? And David said, no, they're waiting. He's like, waiting for what? And David is like, hey, why don't you look and see? You know, yeah, I've already admitted to you at this point. I've already admitted to you that I've been doing, fucking experiments, creating monsters essentially that seem to be hell bent on nothing but mutating, disfiguring, and killing things. And you can basically tell that I'm fucking probably don't have your best interest in mind. And so why don't you go ahead and listen to me and stick your face into some alien abomination eggs that I happen to admit that I created, and just trust me when I say absolutely nothing bad is going to happen to you. So what happens to him? He sticks his face in the egg and then he gets hugged. I mean, was this supposed to be funny or something? I laughed. I fucking laughed. I mean, it was so stupid, it was just fucking hilarious. I mean, was that the point? I just get the feeling that somebody was trying to make a comedy with this movie. But, and so he gets faced, and I guess these ones must be like super xenomorphs because they have like no gestation period whatsoever. They just hug your face and immediately things are popping out of your fucking body. Like in the original Alien, I could have, I could have sworn that the face hugger stayed on your face for what seemed to be like maybe a half a day, if not a complete day or something like that, but it was on your face for a while. Then it got off, then you were fine for a little bit, and then it explodes out of your body. But here, it just hugs your face, and immediately the thing gestates right out of your body. Because the guy gets up, and David's in full dickbag mode, just tossing shit at the guy's face while he's unconscious. And one of the funniest fucking scenes in the movie, the guy wakes up and looks at David and he's like, "David, what do you believe in?" And David's response is, "Creation." And at that at that moment, at that moment, the fucking burster comes out of the guy's chest. And as this thing arises from this gory goo of this guy's body, it starts raising its hand. And then David gets up and starts raising his fucking hands too, like in this pseudo fucking Jesus Christ pose. And there's this heavenly music just playing in the background. God, it's so fucking good. It's like one of those things that you can only do on accident. You can't do this shit on purpose. That's comedy gold. God, that shit was so fucking funny. He just raises his hands. The fucking little chest burster raises his hands. Then the angelic music in the background. Let's get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Oh, man. So anyways, so Walter discovers Elizabeth Shaw's body that I guess David was fucking around on, and David is like playing the fucking flute, and they meet and they start talking, and some of these quotes, dude, I swear, it's like I swear whoever made this movie thought that they were being so fucking deep. But he starts going on, human beings, blah, 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 they're a dying species, they don't deserve to blah, 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 because I'm a superior being, because blah. And he says this one thing, a Neanderthal had the idea of blowing a reed to entertain the children, and then in a blink of an eye, civilization. I wish I had a picture of my fucking face. because I was just like, really, dude. But so David gets on his pretentious bandwagon, and he starts going on how he like created a perfect species, and it's just like other people have brought this up too, and like I said, I'm gonna be bringing up a lot of the same points because a lot of the things that bothered me about this film, or not bothered me. I don't want to use that term because nothing really bothered me about this film. It's just funny. It's just fucking funny. But David goes on about how he appreciates creation, right? About how somebody could make a masterpiece and die happy. He quotes famous poems and famous sayings. He enjoys instruments in music. What about any of that reflects in the xenomorph or the protomorph? These things are like it doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe you could just make the argument with the fact that David is just fucking nuts. But then it's like, well, why even have all the pretentious bullshit on top of that? Just David's a crazy android and he makes crazy shit because he's crazy. Wow. No, it's like if you cannot claim, if you appreciate the things that complex minds can create, complex human minds can create, to create something like the xenomorph and call it a perfect organism from that standpoint is false. The xenomorph is not a perfect organism from that standpoint, from that viewpoint. It's a very imperfect organism. The thing that makes xenomorphs the perfect organism is in their ability to kill and to survive. That's it. But that's all that they can do. They can evolve, but they evolve to increase their survivability, and they kill. That's it. They're efficient killers. They can survive almost anywhere. But they cannot create anything. They cannot compose anything. They have no artistic merit whatsoever. So how, from your viewpoint and your appreciation, is the xenomorph a perfect organism? That doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever, but whatever. So they're talking. And he ends up stabbing Walter from this conversation. And then it flashes back to Daniel. She's in the catacombs, uncovering some paintings of David. And it shows a couple of paintings of Elizabeth Shaw and what potentially happened to her, whatnot. While this is happening, 2 other crew members get attacked by a protomorph. One of them gets fucking face hugged. But one guy stabs it off of him before I thought that it had a chance to lay an egg inside of him. He gets acid on his face, but the other guy gets eaten by a proto. And then while Daniels is in the catacombs, David confronts her. And Davis asks him, that the story that he told her was a lie, that Shaw didn't really die in the crash and what happened to her. And he says, the same thing I'm going to happen to you. Or excuse me, the same thing I'm going to do to you. Now, some people have said, that David actually did love Shaw and that he didn't want to kill her and that she did die in some way, maybe from a disease or something like that. But I just don't see it in it. I mean, this movie does nothing to convey anything other than malevolent intent, And so he attacks Davis, and then there's just this forced, kind of rape scene for whatever reason, because I don't know why an android would feel the need to want to, procreate like a human being does. But for some reason, I guess he decides that he wants to rape her. I don't know why. But anyways, Walter is back, and he attacks David. And David's like, why aren't you dead? And Walter's like, because I got upgrades, bro. I don't know if you know about those, but I got this new fresh skin or something like that, so I could just... basically the movie needs you to get off of Davis, so I'm here now, so we're all good. And so this movie turns into like a Jason Bourne action scene, action fight scene between David and fucking Walter, complete with cutaway scenes where the fight is really just badly choreographed, and you really see that you're dealing with two individuals that have no idea how to fucking fight whatsoever, or maybe just one individual that doesn't know how to fucking fight. But anyways, the fight scene is just hilarious, and they're going at it. And then eventually Walter beats down David. And it seems like he's going to be victorious. And then David says some shit. And he's reaching for a knife. And Walter's about to punch his lights out. And then it cuts away. And it's like, ooh. I wonder who won. I wonder who came out on top, guys. So we cut back to the crew trying to escape back to where Tennessee is trying to pick them up or whatever. And then Walter gets on the ship with them, and some aliens are chasing them down, and they jump on the ship. And now the movie that was a Jason Bourne action fight scene now becomes an Indiana Jones scene, as Daniels tries to shoot at the alien while she's bungee cording or whatever the fuck she was swinging on at the same time to make it like a super exciting action scene, guys. And something about this action scene kind of seemed off to me. And I think it's the way it was filmed. Like, there's one scene where Davis is literally hanging by an apparatus, and she's swinging by the rope, and she's, like, shooting. But the way that the thing is shot, it's like you just see her shooting awkwardly with this machine gun as she's floating around like this untethered ball. And then the flashes at a scene where the alien is supposedly getting shot at. And for whatever reason, it's probably just due to the way that the scene was shot, but it did not seem like she was shooting at what she was aiming at. Like, it was just fucking weird. But so eventually, she can't shoot the damn thing, and then we have to have aliens. We got an alien recreation scene with the captain's wife and fucking Ferris. Now we get an aliens recreation scene with a fucking gigantic mechanical arm that grabs onto this alien and crushes it. Also, while this is happening, too, the fucking ship is crashing into statues and stuff that they have laying around the engineer city. And it's not taking any damage at all from crashing into these gigantic statues and knocking their heads off, but whatever. So they kill the alien, and, everybody goes back in the ship. And Daniels, for whatever reason, does not decide that it's a good idea to immediately grill fucking Walter, supposedly, so that she can know for certain that it is actually Walter, not fucking David. You'd think you'd want to know that, right? Out of anybody, you'd think you'd want to know that. I mean, almost anybody who was down there who hadn't almost gotten killed and raped by his android might still want to question who is who. But especially you, after almost getting killed by David, you might want to check which fucking android is actually on your ship. But I guess you just assume that it's Walter. So, they're all on the ship. Everything goes back to fucking normal for a little bit. But eventually, they get woken up, and there's another fucking alien on the ship. And I don't know how this alien got on the ship at all. I don't know who this alien infected, because I guess you could say that maybe the guy who got face hugged with the patch on his face, that's where the alien came from. But I could have sworn that they got the face hugger off of his face in enough time before it hugged him, but apparently they didn't. So anyways, but who gives a fuck? There's another alien on the ship, guys, because now it's time for the recreation scene where we're running through the ship corridors, and there's a bad CGI alien chasing us all over the place. But it's not scary or tense, because we got Walter, and he's going to tell us exactly where the fucking alien is on the ship at all fucking times. So we're not surprised. We're not scared. We can't even get a fucking jump scare. And so they decided that they're going to track down this alien and get rid of it, as you'd probably want to do. And I don't know why David is helping them right here at all. I mean, you're the one that's telling them where this thing is. You could easily, if you wanted to, put them in a situation where this thing actually ends up getting the jump on them. But for whatever reason, he just tells them exactly where it is. And there's I just have to say, fucking Danny McBride. I think it's his face. I think it's his fucking face that just gets me. But there's this scene where he picks up a fucking shotgun, and I think he cocks it, and immediately I just got flashbacks to Pineapple Express. Thug life. Why is he in this movie? But anyways, they eventually track down this alien, and Daniels goes from just being a level-headed, boring character to wanting to be Vasquez is how you say her name. I don't know how you fucking say her name, but she wants to be a hard ass now. We're gonna get the fucker, and we're gonna kill the fucker. And why does it feel so forced when anybody says the fuck word in this movie? But anyways, so I guess Daniels just turns into the hardest motherfucker in the universe, and they're just gonna fucking kill the living fuck out of this fucking alien. So here we go. So they make this thing come to them in this fucking storage facility where they got all these trucks. And what they're gonna do, you'll never see this coming. You'll never believe how they decide to get rid of this thing. They decide, hold on to your horses, because this is when the movie gets really good. I forgot about this part. I was ragging on this movie for being shit, but this is when it gets really, really good. They decide that they're going to get rid of the alien by blowing it the fuck out of an airlock. Woo! Damn. What a new, invigorating idea. Totally floored me. I was not prepared. It's like, yeah, sure, blow it out in an airlock. So anyways, they open up the airlocks, whatnot. Daniels is super hard. She's the super hardest person in the world. And so this thing almost gets blown out of the airlock, but it doesn't quite get blown out of the fucking airlock, right? They try to trap it in a truck and then blow it out, but it escapes the truck. And it does this weird cut. And look for this in the film. If you see this in the movie, look for this. There's this weird cut right at the end before before Daniels gets in touch with her inner chi or whatever and does some ninja shit. But there is a scene where the alien jumps at Daniels and it does a cut close in to Daniels, like now is going to be the time where she does the ninja shit. But then nothing happens, and it's just the alien clinging onto the end of this fucking ship. But then it decides to jump again when this ship with, not ship, but this truck with, some, it looks like a farming truck with like some spikes or some shit, I don't know. But it's coming up behind her. And then the alien jumps at her, and then she does the ninja shit. But it looks like the exact same cut. It's just a weird fucking cut in this film. But anyways, so she knows that the truck somehow, she's in an airlock, there's no oxygen probably, there's no sound, but she just knows that there's a truck behind her. And that she's going to impale this alien when it jumps at her at the right time. And so she jumps off the landing thing right at the same time that the alien jumps at her, and the alien impales itself on this truck, and then it gets blown out of an airlock. Right? And she survives too, because she's the hardest motherfucker in the universe. So anyways, everything goes good. Everybody's happy. They get put back into their cryopods, right? Walter is helping putting him into cryo sleep or whatnot, and she goes off about something, and she says something about a cabin. And then David gives her a look like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then she knows that she's fucked, and then she starts screaming, "No, no!" God damn, this movie is great, dude. This movie is fucking hilarious. And then there's further, there's regurgitation with David regurgitating these alien embryos that he sticks in with the human embryos, and there's some pretentious music going on. And it was just perfect because him throwing up those embryos just like that with this music playing and everything that I just watched is exactly what I felt like after watching this fucking movie. It was perfect. I mean, I can't... How do you make a movie that's this bad? You can't do this shit on purpose. I know whoever made this film thought that they were making some hot shit. They thought that, 4 Deep Tube me, man. Like, yeah, I'm going all the way down. I'm bringing up fucking philosophers. I'm bringing up fucking poems. I got, the crisis of humanity. I got androids. There's aliens. Man, dude, it's 4 Deep to me, dude. I mean... Who was this fucking movie made for? I mean, at least there's nobody trying to defend. I mean, I guess there's a few people trying to defend this, but really, stop. Just stop. I mean, I don't understand. And then some people were like, yeah, this film is at least it's a good-looking movie. Well, first of all, it's a Ridley Scott film, so the fucking movie's gonna look good. But on top of that, it's I mean, does this movie really look better than Prometheus? I mean, really, does it really look better than Prometheus? I don't think it does. I mean, I think this movie looks a lot darker than Prometheus, but it's darker in that, the sense that a lot of the color is missing from the film. Prometheus was actually a pretty colorful film. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, who's excited for the third installment? They're already talking about doing a fucking third installment. I don't know how this thing is doing in the box office, but I don't think it's doing that fucking good. I don't know if it tanked or not, but it should. And because I know the reviews coming back from this fucking movie have been fucking terrible for the most part. So I don't know how you justify trying to make a third movie, but, at this point in time, this is one of the best fucking comedy movies I've seen all year. This shit was hilarious. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a third film, sure. Let's see if it can make it worse. I don't know how you could possibly make it worse, but I said that, after watching Prometheus, how can it get worse? I mean, the only thing I was hoping for, well, I shouldn't say hoping, that's too large of a word, right? That's too much. The only thing I was maybe anticipating was that they might have learned from a few mistakes here or there. But no. We just made a stupider movie. And not only that, but we failed to hit any of our target audience. Aliens fans don't like this thing, and Prometheus fans don't like this thing. So, yeah, go on with the third movie. It should be fucking hilarious. I'd be curious to know whose fault is it, really, that these movies are so fucking bad. Because it's like, yeah, Ridley Scott could still shoot a beautiful film. But why do these films feel so fucking pretentious and missing so fucking much? And it'll be curious because Blade Runner is coming out later this year, and I'll definitely probably watch that and maybe do a review of that. And it'll be interesting to see if it's just Ridley Scott, and if somebody else maybe touches this shit, that they could do something with it, or maybe it's just Hollywood in general just doesn't know how to fucking make a movie anymore. I don't fucking know. And I don't think I really fucking care. So, in other words, fuck the world.